You could put half of Trump supporters into what I call the basket of deplorables.
In the age of Trump, it's usual to see the elite putting down the working man. But the sway this tiny demographic has over the majority is setting up a them versus us election.
Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really, can we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit?
Both the powerful and the so-called intelligentsia have long said that the divide in this country is between rich and poor. But this lazy framing fails to account for the country's unsettled electorate, for which the chasm between a disconnected elite and average Americans is growing.
The elite 1%, these are people who have a postgraduate degree. They live in very high population density areas, power centers like the D.C. area and Manhattan, and they make a lot of money. They represent 1% of the population, but they dominate the political dialogue. And quite frankly, they don't have all that much respect for voters.
Thank you very much.
To see just how out of touch this elite 1% has become, take a look at Scott Rasmussen's latest RMG research conducted for the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. Asked,
are your personal finances getting better or worse these days?
Among the elite, 74% say their finances are getting better, compared with 20% of the rest of voters. Asked,
do you approve of the job Joe Biden is doing as president?
84% of the elite approve, compared with 40% of non-elites. And so it comes as no surprise that the elite's faith in fellow members of the talking professions extends beyond Mr. Biden. 78% have a favorable view of both lawyers and union leaders. Journalists get 79%, and even members of Congress manage 67%.
Jane Harman, you created this department. Do you like the way he's running it?
You bet I do. And I just want to say to you, Ally Mayorkas, that under the most difficult circumstances and the political dysfunction of Washington, you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Thank
you.
It gets worse. 2/3, that's 67% of the elite 1%, say they'd prefer a candidate who said teachers and educational professionals, not parents, should decide what children are taught.
Teaching in the resistance is incredibly hard work, but we have to do it because we need our kids to know that they are absolutely a part of this movement to smash white supremacy.
Gender-affirming care is life-saving, medically necessary, age-appropriate, and a critical tool for healthcare providers.
This framing helps clarify U.S. politics today, not least Donald Trump's enormous support base, which fervently dislikes progressive policy.
Among the elite 1%, 47% prefer those Sanders-like policies. Only 25% prefer the traditional Democratic policies. So in the elite group that is perhaps setting the narrative for the Democratic Party, far more supportive of a Sanders type approach.
The thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about is the fact that not every Democrat is pro-choice. We really need to reassess if it's appropriate for them to continue to serve.
While this elite 1% is small, its members are prominent in every major institution of American power, from media to universities to government to Wall Street, and they have become more intent on imposing their agenda from above. Asked,
to fight climate change, would you favour or oppose the strict rationing of gas, meat and electricity?
77% favoured the move versus 28% of everyone else. Meanwhile, more than 2/3 of elite IB graduates favor banning things like gasoline-powered cars and stoves and inessential air travel in the name of the environment.
When people who go to Davos to talk about climate change fly private, it seems like they don't want to make
well, they actually, I've talked to them about it. They offset. They buy offsets, they offset, and they are working harder than most people I know to be able to try to affect this transition.
Right.
The point is, many American voters feel helplessly under assault from policies that ignore their situation or values. How else to explain the strange bedfellows we increasingly see among the electorate?
What unites rich and poor parents in the revolt against educational failings?
A common rejection of disconnected teachers' unions and ivory tower academics.
Why are growing numbers of minorities across all incomes and education levels rejecting Democrats?
They no longer recognize a progressive movement that reflexively espouses that elite view.
Why are voters on both sides, including free market conservatives, gravitating to politicians who bash big business and trade and are increasingly isolationist?
They feel the system is rigged by elites that care more about the globe than them.
Elite 1%, especially those who are politically obsessed, they trust the government. They think the American people have too much freedom. They think they should be allowed to lead. And when they run into people who disagree with that, they consider them deplorable.
Polling suggests that most Americans are looking for a leader who promises to return power to the people. They are looking for a freedom agenda. Anyone?